Seahawks 2026 3 stories that should have. Every 12 wide awake, all right. Hold up, put down whatever you're doing, because Lumen Field is absolutely buzzing right now. 3 stories just landed that are going to flip everything you thought you knew about your Seattle Seahawks heading into the 2026 season. And trust me, none of them are small. First up, the defending Super Bowl champions are already getting slept on before a single whistle has blown. There's a Week 1 rumor floating around out there that's going to make every 12's blood boil. Then there's an undrafted edge rusher who just got handed the kind of challenge that either makes a career or breaks one. And finally, the front office's decision about Sam Darnold's contract, after the man literally won them a championship, is raising eyebrows from coast to coast. If you're the kind of fan who shakes the ground at Lumen Field, smash that like button and don't you dare scroll away. There's a double cliffhanger coming at the end that's going to have you typing in the comments before you even realize it. Let's get into it. Story 1. The NFL is already doing Seattle dirty. The confetti from Super Bowl LX is barely cold, and the NFL is already treating the Seattle Seahawks like a footnote. A rumor dropped this week that stopped the entire 12's fan base dead in its tracks. And if it turns out to be true, it's one of the most tone-deaf scheduling calls the league has ever made against a defending champion. Kirk Minihane, over at the Case podcast, reported through his sources that Seattle would kick off the 2026 season on Wednesday, September 9th, against none other than the New England Patriots. The very same New England Patriots that the Seahawks absolutely handled in Super Bowl LX just a few months ago. Yeah, that team. Now, look, a Super Bowl rematch to open the following season isn't exactly unheard of. It's happened 5 times in NFL history, including once before involving Seattle. So historically speaking, it's not outrageous on its own. But context is everything here. And the context surrounding this particular matchup is what makes it feel genuinely disrespectful to the team currently holding the Lombardi Trophy. Here's the real issue. The second this game gets officially announced, the national media conversation will have absolutely nothing to do with the Seahawks. It won't be about Sam Darnold stepping back onto the field as a reigning champion. It won't be about Mike Macdonald's brilliant defensive mind, or Dion Witherspoon locking up receivers like it's second nature, or what Jackson Smith-Njigba does with that record-breaking contract he just inked. None of that. Instead, every camera, every pre-game panel, every sports radio host from New York to Los Angeles will be laser-focused on New England, and specifically on the Mike Vrabel situation. The head coach has been sitting at the center of an off-field controversy involving reporter Dana Rossini, and you better believe the chatter surrounding that story will be deafeningly louder than anything Seattle puts on the field that night. The Seahawks would essentially be hosting someone else's circus inside their own house. Not exactly a great way to be welcomed back as champions. And then there's the A.J. Brown factor, which, if it plays out, makes things even messier. A lot of people are expecting the Eagles to ship the receiver off to New England after June 1st. That date matters because moving him before it costs Philadelphia a painful $20 million in cap space, while waiting until after saves them $7 million. If Brown ends up in a Patriots jersey and lines up against Seattle in Week 1, the storyline completely swallows the moment whole. Suddenly, it's all about Brown's debut in New England, and the champions are just the backdrop. Here's the frustrating truth that every Seahawks fan already knows deep down. Seattle has always had to fight harder for national attention than it deserves. Unlike Dallas, New York, or Boston, cities the media practically worships, Seattle doesn't get the red carpet treatment from broadcasters. It never really has. Historically, this team has needed someone loud and outspoken. Think Richard Sherman going off at a press conference just to drag the spotlight westward for 5 minutes. Right now, Seattle has genuine stars and compelling stories all over the roster. Dion Witherspoon, Jake Bobo, A locker room full of guys who just want to play football and let the scoreboard do the talking. And that's admirable, truly. But when your game has to compete with coaching drama and a potential marquee debut by a wide receiver on the other sideline, the game itself loses. Every time. The media isn't interested in quiet excellence. They want noise. And someone else will always be making more of it. Do you think the NFL is deliberately underselling the defending champions? Be honest. Drop your take in the comments. And if you believe the 12s deserve better from the league office than this, hit that like button now. Because Story 2 is about a young edge rusher who just got handed the biggest test of his life. And almost nobody is talking about him yet. Story 2, the undrafted kid nobody expected, now fighting for everything. Most players who find their way into the NFL were the standout athlete in every room they ever walked into. Division I recruitment letters piling up on the kitchen table, all conference honors, highlight reels that had coaches rewinding the tape at midnight. Jaylen Gaines was not that guy, not even close. And yet, here he is, inside the facility of the defending Super Bowl champions, being called out by name by head coach Mike Macdonald as someone who needs to step up and earn a roster spot in 2026. That kind of public call-out from your head coach cuts both ways. It's an opportunity, no question, but it's also a very clear warning. How Gaines responds to this moment will define the entire trajectory of his professional career. No pressure, right? Gaines started out at Dubuque before transferring to Eastern Illinois, where he spent 3 years developing his game at the FCS level. And honestly, the numbers he put up there were genuinely impressive for that level. 112 total tackles, 70 solo, 22.5 tackles for loss, and 10.5 sacks across his final 2 seasons. The kind of production that makes scouts curious enough to keep a file open. The problem was his athletic profile, specifically that first-step quickness, or the lack of it, that kept his name off every single draft board in 2025. He went undrafted. Seattle took a chance on him as a free agent, and he spent the better part of his rookie year grinding it out on the practice squad. Largely invisible to the outside world, but the world around him has shifted dramatically since then. The Seahawks didn't select a single edge rusher in the 2026 NFL Draft, and Macdonald was pretty direct about the reason. He wants to see what this team already has in its younger, unproven players. Gaines was mentioned alongside Jared Ivey and Jamie Sheriff as guys who now have to go out there and prove they belong. That says a lot about how this coaching staff thinks. They're not about to hand anyone a roster spot based on draft position or school reputation. You earn your place in this building. Full stop. The departure of Boy Mafi to free agency cracked open a real door in the edge rusher rotation. Seattle did bring in veteran Dante Fowler Jr., who carries championship experience and knows what big games feel like, but the depth behind the top names is wide open and genuinely up for grabs. Gaines now has a full year of NFL experience under his belt. He knows the defense. He knows the terminology. He understands what Macdonald expects on every single snap. At 6'4" and 245 pounds, he's got the frame to compete at this level. What he needs to prove in OTAs, minicamp, and training camp is that he can consistently threaten a quarterback when it's one-on-one. That's the one question mark that followed him all the way out of Eastern Illinois. And it's the same question that will either end or extend his NFL career before the summer is over. Realistically, the projection is modest but genuinely meaningful. 4 or 5 appearances this season, whether as a rotational piece or a practice squad elevation. But for a player who was never supposed to make it this far, that's not a ceiling. That's a launching pad. And launching pads, used correctly, can take you anywhere. Do you think Jaylen Gaines can surprise people and lock down a permanent roster spot in 2026? Drop your prediction below. And if you're a sucker for a good underdog story, because honestly, who isn't? Smash that like button now. Because Story 3 involves the most controversial front office decision Seattle has made since lifting the trophy. And it goes right to the heart of the quarterback who brought it home. Story 3. Sam Darnold won the ring, but the raise isn't coming. The scouts called it calculated aggression. The front office called it philosophy. And just about everyone else around the league called it shocking. After winning Super Bowl LX, the Seattle Seahawks did something that immediately became one of the most hotly debated front office moves of the entire offseason. They're not extending Sam Darnold's contract. Not this year. Not with 2 years still sitting on the deal he signed when he first came to Seattle. And according to ESPN insider Dan Graziano, that decision isn't up for debate inside the building. Not even a little. The numbers are straightforward. Darnold is set to earn $27.5 million in 2026 and $35.5 million in 27. There are currently 14 quarterbacks in the NFL averaging a higher annual salary than he is 14, and not a single one of them just hoisted a Lombardi trophy. On paper, that looks like one of the most franchise-friendly deals in the entire league for a proven championship-caliber quarterback. Incredible value, really. Any other front office in football would be rubbing their hands together, and yet, Seattle is holding firm. Their policy is crystal clear. They simply don't extend contracts when there's more than 1 year remaining. It's a non-negotiable principle that the organization has enforced consistently across the entire roster, and winning the championship hasn't softened their stance one bit. If anything, it's made them more confident the policy is right. Graziano summed it up plainly. The Seahawks believe Darnold is already being paid fairly, and they view the quarterback position as one piece of a much larger puzzle, not the gravitational center around which every other financial decision must orbit. They built a Super Bowl winner while keeping their quarterback at a below-market rate. From where they're sitting, the result speaks for itself, and it's hard to argue with that logic when you look at how the championship was actually won. Kenneth Walker III and that fearsome defense were the true engines of that title run. Walker himself was directly responsible for 20 takeaways, a league-best number during Darnold's first regular season in Seattle. He also collected $4 million in performance incentives tied to the Super Bowl run, which the team sees as the right way to reward excellence without blowing up the entire cap structure. Here's what makes this genuinely fascinating from a big-picture standpoint, though. The Seahawks just made Jackson Smith-Njigba the highest-paid wide receiver in NFL history, $168.6 million over 4 years. They're paying a receiver more than their Super Bowl winning quarterback. That's a very deliberate, very loud statement about how this organization thinks. They're betting on building a complete, well-rounded roster rather than funneling franchise-level money into one player at the most expensive position in football. Whether that philosophy holds up when Darnold's current deal expires, or if he goes out and has an MVP caliber season in 2026 is the real question keeping people up at night. And for his part, Darnold has been remarkably calm and professional about the whole thing. No trade request, no whispers through agents or reporters, no pointed comments in press availability. He's playing football, earning his money, and letting the results do the talking, which, in a league full of drama, is actually pretty refreshing. But the rest of the league is watching very closely. If Darnold plays at or above his Super Bowl level again this season, the conversation about what he truly deserves will become impossible for even Seattle's disciplined front office to ignore. And if he falls short, every analyst who already ranked him 13th at the position will feel entirely vindicated and will make sure you know it. This contract situation goes deeper than dollars and cents. At its core, it's a question about trust. Do the Seahawks genuinely believe in the man behind center, or do they see him as a replaceable cog in a machine that runs just fine with or without him? Do you think Seattle is handling the Darnold situation the right way? Drop your honest take below. And if you think the 12s deserve a quarterback who's being paid like the champion he actually is, hit that like button and let the front office feel the noise from the fan base. The bottom line, 3 stories, one undeniable truth. 3 stories. One undeniable truth. The Seattle Seahawks are the defending Super Bowl champions, and they're already being tested from every possible angle before the 2026 season has even technically started. The league might slot them into a Week 1 spot that buries their spotlight under someone else's headlines. An undrafted edge rusher is literally fighting for his professional life inside their own building. And the quarterback who delivered the championship is being told his ring doesn't come with a pay rise. Any one of those situations would send most franchises into full panic mode. For Seattle, it's basically just another Tuesday, because this is what championship culture actually looks like from the inside. It's not smooth. It's not comfortable. It's not wrapped in a bow. It's a front office that holds its philosophical line even when the whole world is telling it to loosen up. It's a coaching staff that challenges undrafted players by name because they trust the process more than they trust the pedigree. And it's a fan base that watches the league repeatedly try to minimize their team and responds by being louder than anyone else in the away building. So loud that Lumen Field literally registers on seismographs. The NFC West is watching. The entire conference is watching. And the question hanging over everything in 2026 is beautifully simple. Can this team do it twice? The edge rusher room got deeper. The defense is largely intact. And Sam Darnold has something to prove to every single analyst who ranked him 13th and thought they were being generous. That combination, hunger, continuity, and unfinished business, is exactly the kind of fuel that repeat champions run on. Now here's what I need from you. Smash that like button if you believe the Seahawks are going to silence every critic and make another deep run in 2026. Drop a comment with your boldest prediction. Do they repeat? Fall just short in the NFC Championship, or does someone catch them off guard in the first round? And subscribe right now, because every new subscriber makes 49ers fans just a little bit more nervous. And the next video is going to hit even harder than this one. But before you go anywhere, Devin Witherspoon still hasn't signed. And if that contract standoff drags deep into the summer, the greatest defense Seattle has assembled in a generation is going to start the season with a massive question mark at its most important position. A decision could come any day now. And there's a rumor that a team in the NFC is already quietly preparing an offer sheet that Seattle is going to struggle to match.